Good
What's
morning,
up?
Joe.
How you doing?
Good morning, brother. Vito Glazers here. How are you?
All right, all right.
Well, I'm grateful to see you. You look like you're in good spirits. You're always smiling.
Well, I'm trying to hang on. That's the only thing you can do.
Happy Sunday to you.
Same to you, man.
Are you a Christian?
I have my connection with God, but I don't read a Bible and do all that shit.
That's okay. Nobody's
I just,
judging. Just curious.
I just believe that you're supposed to do good to others, and make your way through this mess.
I'm with you 100%. And well, I know we're limited on time, and I'd love for you to have the biggest platform and opportunity to share your story. So, why don't we just jump right into it? You're talking about getting through this mess. Give me a little bit, just for those of you, for the three people on Earth who haven't seen Tiger King on Netflix. Why don't we give them a really quick synopsis about the backstory, about how you got where you are right now, and what the injustice that's taking place is, and then I'll jump into a couple questions with you from there.
Well, I mean, the three people that haven't seen Tiger King, I'm right there with them. I haven't seen it either, so I don't even know what the hell all the hype is about. But how I got here, I got here because of Tiger King. We have the evidence now of phone recordings of the producers of Netflix paying Jeff and James and them during my trial, actually in the witness room, to keep the story going so they could make this movie. But a lot of people are confused. I didn't film for Tiger King. Everything that you saw me in Tiger King was footage from my reality show that I was filming. And my husband at the time, Dylan, got greedy and sold Netflix my computers and hard drives, and then ran off with all the money. So I didn't get a dime from Netflix from Tiger King. So.
Yeah, I've read some reports that said that you've made like less than $10,000 from the entire series, even though it was one of the number one series on television.
Well, I didn't make anything, at all. Now, when I filed for a divorce, he signed a contract with Netflix, and when I filed for a divorce, I subpoenaed his bank records and his taxes. And then, when I met him, he was homeless and living on an air mattress. And when I divorced him, he had $2.6 million worth of assets. So somebody paid him.
Wow, that's such an injustice of its own. So it just seems like you're a magnet for injustices.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So how does that work with Netflix being able to use your likeness without you really being involved in the process?
Because there's so much crooked shit involved in all of this stuff.
Sure.
The contract that they have there, apparently they forged my signature on it. And
Wow.
because I'm in prison, they got me. Everybody got me in prison. They can just assume that I'm lying, and then Dylan signed the contract, giving them, because we were legally married, giving them the authority to use all of my footage.
Wow. Okay, so there's multiple injustices going on here. I want to clear up one of the.
It's no different than the man that I'm suing. Is reason why I'm down here now. Claimed that all of my music was his, and
Sure.
Netflix paid him so they could put on a show,
Sure.
It's just all a bunch of shit.
Well, there's a lot of financial incentive for breaking the law in America in a lot of different capacities these days. And that's part of the reason why your story is so important to me and for the people that are following me. I wanted to bring some attention because a lot of people that I speak to think that you're in prison because somebody was killed. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. You're in there. There's nobody ever been hurt. It's nothing.
No, and even people in prison that seen the show that are now in prison think that somebody was killed, and everybody's got it confused that Carol killed her husband. Joe didn't kill anybody.
Right.
Okay. and that's where they get the story confused, because I don't know, again, I never saw Netflix, so I don't know how they twisted it. But yeah, a lot of people are under the assumption that somebody was killed, but it's because everybody assumed Carol killed her husband.
So what are the exact charges that you are in prison for today?
I am in here for murder for hire and then 20 animal-related charges. Everything from taking 5 endangered species without a permit to my veterinarian screwing up a health certificate. I'm actually doing time for something she did wrong.
Yeah, so when it comes to the animal crimes, that to me sounds like something that would normally be like a civil matter. Like you deal with that in civil court. It doesn't seem like a criminal thing.
Well, first of all, for 23 years we euthanized animals. Okay, one thing that everybody that ever saw Tiger King or anything needs to understand: everything has to die. Okay, we're all gonna die. All right, we're gonna get to the age that we're gonna die. Okay, tigers were supposed to live between 14 and 16 years old. These that I put to sleep were 23 years old. Okay, they were crippled, they were old, they had never made it through the winter. All right, and for 23 years, Joe and his vet and his USDA inspector euthanized animals. That's just what happens. Okay, and I never needed a permit until they needed to put me in jail.
Right.
And a federal game warden arrested me, not for animal cruelty, not for animal abuse, not for shooting 5 tigers, for taking 5 endangered species without a permit.
Got it.
Okay, and in 23 years, the Federal Fish and Wildlife never one time came to my zoo and wanted to know how many endangered species I had, where they were, how many were born, how many died, where the bodies were, until they needed to put me in jail. So I basically consider myself a political prisoner, because the whole reason of doing this was to put me out of business and pass the Big Cat Safety Act.
Yep. Yeah. So I was able to read between the lines on the Netflix documentary when I watched it, getting prepared for this interview with you. What I really realized is this is kind of how I seen it: is that you're running a zoo. You've got a competitor, Carol Baskin.
Yes.
You're kind of more like a free spirit, libertarian, I guess is what we would call it. You don't really want the government in your business. She seems like more of an operator, politically connected, kind of willing to do anything to get her mission accomplished. Doesn't come across as sincere to me. My personal opinion, probably killed her husband. I don't have proof. I'm not a lawyer. I can't go around saying this stuff. But it seems pretty obvious she, the things line up for her to feed this guy to a tiger. So let's go back to the crime of the murder for hire. This is probably the bigger part of your sentence. Tell us a little bit about how you got caught up in this murder for hire scandal and why they were able to take a crime where there was not actually any victim, nobody was actually murdered, and put you in the position that you're in today.
Well, unfortunately, in the federal system versus a state system, the feds can convict you on hearsay. And that's basically what they done was Jeff Lowe, James Garrison, and Alan Glover coerced with the federal agent and the U.S. attorney this story that Joe hired 2 people to go kill Carol Baskin. And then they, I started with 1 charge, okay, and that was the murder for hire charge. And when I asked for a trial, like the Constitution says I have the right to a fair trial, then they superseded me with 20 more charges. Okay, so they punish you for wanting to go to trial. Right. Okay, just like Donald Trump has got 91 felony indictments. Okay, so they're hoping if they throw 91 against the wall, one's going to stick.
Yep, and it makes for a bigger media case too when people hear, well, Trump's got 91 charges against him, he must be guilty, or Joe's got 25 charges against him. It's more intimidating than 1 charge.
So then we have the evidence now, and I encourage you to go look at my new website. It's called joeexoticofficial.com. And, it's got all the evidence and the videos of them admitting to perjury now. Alan Glover even admitted and took, and I believe that was in Tiger King 2, he actually took them to the zoo and showed them how they were going to kill me if this didn't work. Okay, so what they done was they superseded me with 20 more animal charges, and then the 5 tigers that I had put to sleep and I buried respectfully, side by side in a grave with all of their body parts, so that way I could always tell people where they were in case somebody wanted to accuse me of selling them on the black market. and they cut their heads off, and they paraded them around in front of a jury, and made me look like this horrible animal killer.
What I'm really more interested in bringing up to people's attention is the murder for conspiracy charge that really has no evidence. It's been proven to be baseless. You've been proven that there's all kinds of financial incentives that have incentivized the parties and the witnesses to testify against you. Tell us the three main details about the conspiracy for murder charge against you.
Well, I mean, like I said, they started with one murder for hire charge, and when I asked for a trial, they superseded my indictment with 20 more charges because they couldn't make it stick without anything else. Okay, so they had to make me out to be this horrible animal murderer. But we have the evidence, and we have the video confessions under oath, affidavits, everything else. So James admitting to perjury, Lauren admitting to perjury, Jeff admitting to perjury, and Alan admitting to perjury.
Who are these people for the listeners that don't know those specific names? Who are they as associated to you in the case?
These are all government witnesses that testified against me, that they conspired to build this whole little racket up.
And just to clarify, you have never killed anybody.
I've never killed anybody.
Have you ever killed a human being?
Understand, I've never even had a speeding ticket, okay?
You're a former law enforcement professional.
Right. Yeah, I used to be a police chief.
I don't know if that's going to work for or against you in winning the audience over.
It was when I was 19 years old. I was the youngest police chief in the state of Texas's history, and I wear that proudly. I worked my ass off to get that.
For a guy with a mullet, you have a lot of bureaucratic know-how. You were in the sheriff's department. You've run for governor. You've run for president
twice. I ran for president in 2016. I ran for governor in 2018, and I'm running for president from prison. Absolutely, because people like us, you and me. I mean, I'm a nobody, just like the listeners that are listening. We're just normal people, okay? Yeah. I'm nobody special just because of Netflix. We have to stand up for ourselves, okay? And we have to be educated enough to know when we're getting butt fucked without Vaseline. It's just crazy what our government is doing to everyday people. That's just like on my political website, they have a law that you can't sell milk from your cow to your neighbor without the USDA inspecting it. That should be your right, and that should be your neighbor's right. If back in the day, Jesus Christ, I remember milk coming in glass containers, sitting on our porch, unrefrigerated for hours before we ever woke up and got the milk off the porch.
Okay, well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to talk about milk on the porch. I want to talk about your case, and I want to emphasize to the people that are watching and listening to this that you were never. It was never really proven that you did any of these things. All they did was get two witnesses together to say that you conspired against somebody that was basically coming after your farm and your zoo. And now, basically, this can happen to any person in America, that the government can basically just financially incentivize any two witnesses and get them to take down somebody that they see as a political opponent.
Well, and before we figured out that your recording thing was not working, that's the same thing that they've done to Andrew Tate.
Yep. And I want to talk about Tate. I want to talk about Tate with you. So how has Andrew Tate helped you before he got into his own problems?
Andrew Tate was one of the first and only people that stepped up and helped me with some legal bills, financial bills, just to keep me eating in here and stuff. He made sure that I was living pretty comfortably in here. I will never be convinced that he's guilty of what he's accused of, because I've been through this system of being accused of something that I've never done. And it just goes to show, if you have an opinion in this world and they don't like it, that they're going to find a reason to shut you up. If President Trump with 91 felony indictments ain't enough proof for you, nothing is.
Yeah, and that's how we discussed it. Originally, you had a single charge against you, and then they raised it to 21 charges when you asked for a trial. Is there any constitutional basis to that from the legal experts you talked to?
And the Constitution says that you have a right to. There's a couple of things that I have a problem with. Okay, and the Constitution says you have the right to a fair trial. Right. The minute you ask for that trial, the feds are going to stack the charges on you and punish you, and you're going to get 3 times more jail time, than if you didn't ask for a trial. All right, so that's the first issue. The second issue is you have a right to be tried by a jury of your peers. Okay, I wasn't tried by a jury of my peers. My peers, to me, are people I look up to: zoological people, agricultural people, veterinarians. I was charged with 21 animal charges, and I was tried by a jury of 23-year-old secretaries and security guards from Tinker Air Force Base. So I don't think that I was tried by a jury of my peers. And then the Constitution says also that you have the right to non-excessive bail. I was held without bail. I wasn't even given an option of bail. Okay, the guy down in Houston, Texas, that was illegal and came into the United States 3 times and had the cops at his house several times over guns that shot and killed all 5 of his neighbors. He got bail.
Why do you think they did not give you bail? How do you pose a flight risk?
Well, I didn't pose a flight risk. When I left the zoo, I came to Gulf Breeze, Florida, and I rented a house in my real name. I got a post office box in my real name. I wasn't running from anybody. I just walked away from the zoo because I couldn't take it anymore. So what they done was they said they got my niece, who financially had it invested in this because she got my mom's house and land, and she's the one who signed the zoo over to Carol, good old Chelsea Putnam. She testified against me at my bond hearing that I'm a flight risk. My sister, who I've not spoken to since my brother's funeral in 1997, said that I was a flight risk. The government bent over backwards to find everybody to screw me when they needed to screw me. And why? So that way they could keep me in jail and limit my phone. I couldn't talk to lawyers. I couldn't hire real lawyers. I couldn't work to pay real lawyers. I was kidnapped. I was kidnapped by the United States of America.
You've been kidnapped, and really what it comes down to is we were talking about following the money. So how do we follow the money in the case as briefly and succinctly as possible? These tiger petting zoos and the exotic animal world, it's worth millions. And you said that Carol Baskin has enriched herself to the point of over $14 million based on essentially stealing your zoo and shutting you down and creating a monopoly in the tiger world.
And that's just on Big Cat Rescue's finances. That's not Carol Baskin's personal finances.
What do you think Carol Baskin's net worth is today?
I haven't Googled it. I don't even know. I haven't even looked. But I imagine it was probably up in the 20s of millions of dollars.
I'm going to see what networth.com has to say about it. But it says that she's worth up to $10 million. But, somebody like...
That's pretty cheap.
Okay, let's stay on track here. What I want to bring to the attention of people that are watching this right now is basically you have never killed anybody. The government set up 2 witnesses to essentially put you in jail. How long is the sentence that you're committed to right now?
21 years.
21 years. Nobody has died.
Nobody has died. Nobody got touched. Nobody got touched.
Well, I shouldn't say nobody has died. You haven't killed anybody.
I have not killed anyone.
Other people have died at the hands of people involved in this case, and they haven't seen 1 day of court or jail.
No, absolutely.
What do you think happened to Carol Baskin's husband?
I have her original diary. She killed him. She fed him to the tigers.
She fed her husband to the tigers.
And what she didn't feed to the tigers, okay, people have to understand the whole track of this. Carol is the one who designed his power of attorney. Okay, his power of attorney, the first sentence says, in case of my disappearance. Now, who the hell does that? Okay, you usually put upon my death or something like that. I leave everything. Okay, well, it was in case of my disappearance, I'm going to leave everything to Carol. And on the second page, it's stamped This instrument was designed by Carol Lewis, which was her name at the time. She is the one who filed it with the court to make it legal. All right. And then 3 months later, she filed that he was missing. Okay. But before she reported him missing, the day before, she installed a septic tank, okay, where the trailer house sits next to the gift shop on Big Cat Rescue's property. And she has a tiger cage built over that septic tank so nobody can get to that septic tank. And whatever they didn't grind up and feed to the cats is under that septic tank, not in it, under it, because septic tanks are made out of big concrete blocks, okay? So it's underneath there. And then when the 3 daughters demanded that the DNA be tested on the meat grinder came up stolen. And I can promise you that meat grinder is at the bottom of that lake at Big Cat Rescue because she built a tiger cage around that lake as well.
Who's going around stealing meat grinders?
Yeah, exactly.
That's ludicrous. Okay, why has nobody investigated this, Joe?
Well, because her brother was on the sheriff's department. He was the first investigating cop, at the scene of this being reported missing.
How is this like the most conspiracy theory case ever? I mean, who are you guys? This is like a bunch of cartoon characters slugging it out over tigers in America. This is what's going on in Middle America?
This is what America's turned into.
It's
absolutely
crazy. That's absolutely crazy to me. All right, listen, I want to...
We're not worried about Al-Qaeda or ISIS. We're worried about Joe petting baby tigers.
Yeah, this is insane. Okay, so how far into your prison sentence are you now?
September will be going on 7 years. 7
years of your life has been stolen because of a unprovable accusation that you conspired to kill your competitor.
Absolutely.
What I just want to bring to people's attention, how has Carol Baskin financially benefited from your incarceration and from her reappropriation of your zoo?
Okay, well, her taking part in Tiger King alone, I talked to the owner of Cameo. She's made over $1 million on Cameo alone, okay? And then the monopoly that she has created on tigers, the Global Federation Animal Sanctuaries is what her and Patty Finch started back in the day. And she is the Global Federation Animal Sanctuaries. And the way that they have profited from all of this is they took Joe's 260 big cats and they moved them throughout the little organization of the Global Federation Animal Sanctuaries in Colorado, Illinois, Texas, and so on. And they're all raising money, conning the general public that they have to raise this money to take care of Joe's rescued tigers that he was abusing. Okay, and then every one of them are open to the public, selling tickets to come and look at them. So they're being exploited just as much, if not more, than they were when they were at my zoo.
Right, and I don't really consider being exploited, but and then we talked on an interesting subject that your tigers, that you were breeding them and that they're going extinct, and then they banned your ability to breed the extinct animals. So
absolutely,
where's the logic?
That's where the Big Cat Safety Act makes no sense, okay, in America, because it bans private breeding in America. And that's it. When you have something that's going extinct or endangered, what do you want to do? You want to multiply it. You want to breed it. And the private sector is where you have the best diverse bloodlines instead of putting them all in one zoo farm like the ACA, and they're all watered down. So I donated more blood for DNA testing to keep the bloodlines diverse to the National Institute of Health and Texas A&M University to anybody in the world. And what did they do? The minute that they got my park and my animals away from me was they neutered them. They killed the species from that point on. Well, they will never multiply.
The way I see it is it just makes whatever they have more valuable. So
absolutely.
This is bizarre. Okay, I want to talk really quick about, we talked about the similarities between you and Tate's case. I want to talk about getting you free. What do you think, in your mind, is the fastest path to freedom, to getting Joe Exotic out of prison?
Fastest path to freedom for me would be to get Joe Biden to wake up. President Biden.
I wouldn't put your
Well,
I wouldn't put too much of a
and everybody says that, okay? But he is the power to be right now, whether you like him or not, okay? I myself would prefer Trump, okay? But Trump left me here too, okay?
Yep.
So there's good and bad there. But there's somebody close enough to Biden to nudge him in the ribcage and say, hey, this guy has been wrongfully convicted. He's wrongfully detained. They've admitted to perjury. They admitted to a plot to kill him. And right now it's election time, Joe. It is time. You stood on that stage at that drive-in with Kamala Harris while they were honking their horns and flashing their lights, promising justice and prison reform, and you ain't done shit. Okay, it's time to get out in the public ahead of this and let this man go home to his fiance and his 5-year-old stepson and move on with his life, because 6 years is long enough for whatever the hell they think I've done wrong.
Okay, I got a question for you.
That's going to be my fastest way out. So I just need the public to rally on every post the man makes, free Joe Exotic.
Do you think that social media pressure actually makes it to the presidential level, that they actually care?
I think it makes it to somebody that reads his shit for him. Yeah. Does he see it? Absolutely no. But it wasn't President Trump that refused to pardon me. It was Mark Meadows, the chief of staff on Air Force One, talked him out of it. So if Mark Meadows can talk him out of it, and Mark Meadows knows who I am, you can damn sure bet that Joe Biden's chief of staff knows who the hell Tiger King is.
Why do you think Trump was de-incentivized from helping you get out of jail? What did he have to lose?
The only thing I have to go by is what I read in the book that was written about that conversation on Air Force One, and it was Mark Meadows thought that they should not get involved in murder for hire. But it was okay to pardon Lil Wayne and Kodak Black for violent gun charges,
That they got caught with the guns, and here you are.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so we're talking. I wanted to talk a little bit and bring some attention to Joe Biden's support of Britney Griner in Russia and compare some of the hypocrisies in her case to your case. What are your editorial opinions on how Joe Biden treated Britney Griner and getting her back from the United States to the United States?
I think honestly that was a slap to every American citizen and their families who has somebody incarcerated in America. And the reason why is you can take Britney Griner, Paul Whelan, and Trevor Reed, and anytime you've ever seen them on TV in court in Russia, they're in street clothes. They're in their clothes, and they're not shackled at the ankles. They're not belly chained. They simply had a pair of handcuffs on. In America, we're dressed in orange, and we're shackled, and we're belly chained the first time we appear in court to look guilty. So that's my first issue. My second issue is he tripped all over himself and let out one of the world's most dangerous arms dealers there ever was, Victor Boot. They let him out after this woman gets on an airplane in America, flies across state lines, which makes it interstate commerce of traveling with drugs, not to mention international lines traveling with illegal drugs. Then she gets there and she pleads guilty, and she was sentenced to 9 years in prison, and she's wrongfully detained. So to me, that's a slap in America's face, all right? But if you sit and think about it, I've been going on 7 years trying to get a new trial. Britney Griner got arrested, charged, convicted, sentenced, appealed, and released in less than 10 months. And we want to bitch about Russia's justice system?
What do you think is the primary difference between how her case was handled and how your case is being handled now?
Her case was handled because it was on every news channel with her wife on there calling out the president, and she's a lesbian and a black, and I'm white, and I don't have a husband to get on TV and plead with President Biden. I could probably ask Seth, get on TV and exploit our son, 5-year-old son, and make him look bad, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to exploit a 5-year-old to get out of prison. I'll get out of prison on my own.
Okay.
If I can't get out of prison because I'm innocent, then I'll die here.
Speaking about dying in prison, I wanted to emphasize we had a conversation that you would never commit suicide in prison. I wanted to talk to you about Jeffrey Epstein and the way that his death happened under the watch of guards. After being in several prisons in the past 7 years, what do you think the likelihood of that actually being a suicide was?
I don't believe it for a minute. I was next to Ted Kaczynski for 5 months in North Carolina at Butler Prison, the hospital, and he apparently hung himself too. And I was in the exact same cell next to him, okay? And it would have been difficult to hang myself because there's cameras. They check you every 15 minutes. So I don't believe it for a minute that he hung himself. Whitey got killed in the prison in Springfield, Missouri, by a bunch of inmates, killed him, and he wasn't put in protective custody, and he should have been. So the Federal Bureau of Prisons has their way to put you out of commission when they need to.
So if you ever die in prison, should people be suspicious?
If I ever die in prison, you better be suspicious. I hope to hell somebody jumps up and down and screams.
And so say it here on the podcast that you will never commit suicide in prison.
I will never commit suicide in prison.
What keeps you motivated and keeps you alive and fighting after 7 years of so much injustice and having your freedom taken away?
Let's see. I'm innocent. I have an amazing man and a little kid to go home to one day, and I have a goal of taking the evidence I have that I've gathered in here for the last 6 years and testify in front of Congress and changing it for the other 2 million people that are incarcerated in this country.
And with the information that you have, what do you think is the most important thing that you want people to walk away with knowing right now about you?
I want people to walk away knowing that someone whether it's your family member, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt or uncle, or your child that's in jail is being treated like river rats. We're eating expired food. We're living in black mold and algae, leaking roofs. Like right now, I have not been allowed to shave since last Sunday. Why is that? Why can't a $48 an hour guard hand me a razor once a day so I can at least take care of my hygiene needs? But instead, your teeth rot because they don't give you. If you can't afford toothpaste, you don't get toothpaste because it's like they're on a fucking budget. I don't understand it. So know that I'm fighting not for me. I'm fighting for 2 million people.
2 million people that are incarcerated in the United States. I want to ask you again, we got about 5 minutes left. Tell the fans of Tiger King who are tuning into this right now, tell them one thing about the show that nobody would know about.
First thing is I didn't film for Tiger King. They used footage from my old show. So everything that they made me out to be off camera is absolutely set up and paid for. Which shouldn't have been because documentaries weren't supposed to pay their people in the documentary. Everything that you saw of me filming was the real me, uncut, unedited, and that's me. Fun, outgoing, loud, obnoxious, Joe Exotic. But what they didn't portray is how many years I spent opening that zoo for free to the homeless on Christmas and Thanksgiving and cooking them dinner. How many sick children that I granted their last wishes for with the Animal Miracle Network, and on and on and on of the Tigers for Tots and the toy drives I did and everything else. They made me out to be a meth head. And I'm not a meth head. I'm the only one in the show with teeth. So take that for what it's worth, I always openly say, I took care of my parents from 6 o'clock in the morning. I ran a zoo. I had 3 restaurants and nightclub, and I didn't get done until 2 o'clock in the morning. And did I ever try meth? Absolutely. But I couldn't do it all the time because I couldn't keep my clothes on. So there's no way I could run a zoo and 3 restaurants and a nightclub naked. Okay, you just never saw me running around naked.
Joe Exotic, everybody. Okay, I want to get something in here for you real quick. I want to summarize this whole thing. So number one is we're summarizing the fact that the charges against you are essentially, there was some animal charges, and then there was the one conspiracy to commit murder of Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin's obviously still alive. You're doing 21 years in prison for basically saying that you want to. Did you ever say anything that you want to kill Carol Baskin?
Yeah, the only thing I ever said, and they played it in court, was, "Girl, I want to meet you in a dark alley one night." That's all I ever said.
And it doesn't seem to me like a conversation that would even be outside of a couple arguing, where you're like, wow, I would really love to run my ex-boyfriend over or something, and
no.
People take it as hyperbole. I don't see how you could be convicted for 21 years over that. The evidence is all at joeexoticofficial.com, and your attorney has a YouTube link. What is that, Joe?
It's on John Phillips's YouTube called Tiger Tales.
Tiger Tales. You can see the evidence is laid out for the whole case is there. What would somebody have to gain by supporting you legally? Let's say I know a criminal attorney. What would he have to gain by helping you? And what would you tell an attorney right now in order to get them involved in your case?
Well, Andrew Tate has publicly said any attorney that can get me out of here, he would give $2 million to. So that would be the first thing.
There's a $2 million bounty on your freedom.
Yes.
And do you think you have the evidence to get yourself, to give an attorney the ammunition to get out the door?
Look, man, if video confessions is of perjury and they were going to kill me to start with, and they made this all up, is not enough to get me out of here, I'm never getting out of here. That's a fact. But any lawyer that would get me out of here would be world famous right now. Any
lawyer. I have a couple lawyers in mind. I'm going to send this to them. Guys, there is a $2 million bounty on Joe Exotic's freedom. There is pages and hours of evidence. I've gone through it. It's crazy to see the stuff these people have admitted and the documentation that you had. JoeExoticFreedom.com, our first gay presidential candidate of all time. Joe, you got 20 seconds on the clock yet. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
Hey, I just tell everybody I love them and I appreciate the support. Put Free Joe Exotic everywhere on the internet, all over social media. And help me get out of here, because it's not just for me, it's for everyone. Okay?
Hashtag Free Joe Exotic, guys. Joe, it was a pleasure. I'm grateful that we made it work. God bless you.
Thank you, man.
Take care.